today's video, we're going to ask the question, who is Bumble from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? According to the AI overview, Bumble is the nickname of the abominable snowman monster, a giant yeti from 1964 Rankin Bass film, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Yukon Cornelius, a character in the film, calls the monster Bumble. Bumble is the main antagonist in the original film, but becomes a supporting character in the 2001 sequel, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Island of the Misfit Toys. Here are some facts about Bumble. Appearance. Bumble is a giant white-furred yeti with a blue face, lips, hands, and feet, and long pointed fangs. He has a very loud and ferocious roar. Weaknesses. Bumble's one weakness is that he can't swim. Role in the sequel. In the 2001 sequel, Bumble is Yukon Cornelius' sidekick. He helps Rudolph and the gang capture the toy taker by disguising himself as a giant plush bunny. Voice actors. Larry D. Mann and Bernard Cohen provided the vocal sound effects for Bumble in the original film, and Gary Chalk provided the voice in the sequel. Under appearances, the Bumble is first seen when Donner is teaching Rudolph the ways of the reindeer, but luckily the two are able to take cover. A year later, he starts to pursue Rudolph and Hermie after being attracted by Rudolph's nose's light, but the two are able to douse the light, and he loses them in the darkness. He later chases Rudolph and Hermie again, but Yukon Cornelius is able to help them escape by using a block of ice as a raft due to Bumble not being able to swim. He sinks underwater and nearly drowns, but manages to pull himself out of the water, but still can't pursue them any further. A few months later, Rudolph, after being told by Santa that his parents and his mate Clarice went off to look for him, Rudolph goes off to find them and sees that they are being held hostage by the Bumble. Rudolph battles him in an attempt to save his parents and Clarice, but is knocked out and gets dizzy, but luckily Hermie and the Yukon arrive and knock the Bumble out and make him dizzy before Hermie extracts all of his teeth. After regaining consciousness, the Bumble, even without teeth, still tries to attack the group, but Yukon supposedly sacrifices him by knocking the Bumble off a cliff, taking himself with him. However, near the end of the film, it was revealed that Yukon, along with now reformed Bumble, survived the fall unharmed and arrived at Santa's workshop. At first, the group is still afraid that the Bumble will still continue to attack them and gasp in shock, but Yukon kindly reassures them that he actually reformed the Bumble, and the Bumble, who just turned from bad to good, kindly puts a gold store on top of the workshop's Christmas tree. When Rudolph questions how they survived, Yukon claims that Bumbles bounce, thus allowing them to do so and survive. Bumble again appears in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Island of Misfit Toys. After the events of the original film, it is shown that he is very fond of his friends' things. He also saved Yukon Cornelius after he got pushed by a boomerang that doesn't come back. Here he is voiced by Gary Chalk, who also voices Santa Claus in the same movie there, compared to the original, which he only roared loudly of his toothache. Under trivia, it says, the Bumble isn't really a villain. He was just upset of his toothache from the leftover spell from when the Winter Warlock from Santa Claus is Coming to Town was evil. So really the reindeer that made fun of Rudolph and did not let Rudolph join reindeer games were the main antagonists, not the abominable snow monster of the north. He is based off of the abominable snow monster. Here's a photo of the abominable snow monster, also known as Bumble. Under the photo it says here, species Yeti, gender male. Performers are Bernard Cohen in the original special and Gary Chalk in Rudolph and the Island of Misfit Toys. Also, Brian Summer, Rudolph. It says here, Bumble appeared in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Island of Misfit Toys, and on The Simpsons, he had cameos. Here is another picture of Bumble. It says here, Bumble had appearances in Christmas specials. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, in the original special, the abominable snow monster pursues Hermie, Rudolph, and Yukon throughout their adventures. Not only does the sight of Rudolph's glowing nose drive him into a rage, narrator Sam the Snowman explains that he hates everything to do with Christmas as well. Bumble is Yukon's longtime enemy, so much so that he is an expert on Bumble's strengths and weaknesses. In their first escape together as a group, the three set off to the sea on an ice float from which Yukon chips an iceberg with his pickaxe, since he knows that Bumble cannot float on water, which is proven when as soon as the Bumble tries to step into the water, he sinks underwater and nearly drowns. But he is able to climb back onto dry land safely, seething in frustration at losing pursuit of them for the time being. When Rudolph's family leaves the safety of the North Pole to find him, they become prisoners of the abominable in his cave. Rudolph tries to fight the Bumble himself, but the Bumble knocks him out using a large stalagmite as a club. Luckily, Hermie and Yukon, having learned about Rudolph's plight from Sam the Snowman, arrive at the cave to save him and his family. Yukon and Hermie attempt to lure him from his cave and away from the trapped reindeer when Hermie makes the vocal sounds of a pig. Yukon knows that Bumble would prefer pork over deer meat any day. Yukon then knocks the monster unconscious by dislodging a large rock above the entrance to the cave and onto his head. Hermie then extracts all his teeth while he is out cold, rendering him unable to eat any of them. Yukon sees this as his chance to engage the creature in hand-to-hand combat. As Bumble backs away toward a bottomless ravine, now that he was no longer a threat without his teeth, he, Yukon Jack, and his dog sled team fall over the cliff into the ravine and out of sight. Rudolph and the others believe the Bumble dead along with Yukon and his team. To the amazement of everyone in Santa's workshop, Yukon, Bumble, and the dog sled team later come knocking at the door. The sight of Bumble frightens everyone in the room, but Yukon insists that he has reformed his evil ways and has come seeking a job. Bumble shows everyone that because he is so tall, he is able to place a star on top of a Christmas tree without the need for a ladder. Rudolph asks Yukon how they survived the fall. As an expert on the monster, Yukon was unconcerned about falling into the ravine, answering, "Didn't I tell you, boy? Bumbles bounce." It says here, Bumble did not appear in Rudolph's Shiny New Year and Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July, but he does return to assist his friends in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Island of Misfit Toys. After having helped Yukon mine for peppermint, Bumble assists Rudolph and the gang in their plan to capture the toy taker. When he comes to the titular island, Bumble disguises himself as a giant plush bunny as part of the plan, but the toy taker leaves him behind because he is too big to fit on his blimp. Still wanting to help his friends, Bumble manages to create a makeshift ice float by stomping the ground near the ocean. As he follows the blimp, he rescues Yukon Cornelius after he falls out of it. Other Christmas productions. In The Simpsons episode The Fight Before Christmas, Bumble makes a background cameo during Bart's Polar Express-inspired dream. He also briefly seen waving at Marge and Maggie in the intro sequence for I Won't Be Home for Christmas. He appears again in Maggie's dream in The Nightmare After Christmas, in which Santa, Jack Frost, and Wayne Gretzky team up to protect her from the elf on the shelf gnome in your home. Unfortunately, they are scared off when the gnome is revealed to carry a gun. Here is a gallery of photos of Bumble in action. If you like this video with information about Bumble, the abominable snow monster, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.